All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is work on the data model, and then we'll do some initial binding and then rework it a little bit in another video. So the first thing I'm going to do is add a model folder. So I'm just going to select the project name, go over to projects and add new folder and call it model. And inside of there, I'm going to add another class called, I'll call my news item. You can call it whatever you like, but ultimately I'm going to be creating a new POCO called news item, and I'll create an ID, although we won't really use that. Oops. Create a category. Headline. Also create subhead, dateline, and the image path. Okay. All right. So the next thing we're going to need to do then is to create a a class I want to call the news factory, I guess. I could call it news manager. Either of those I think would apply in this situation. And that's and when I use the word manager or factory, I'm invoking patterns, design patterns for software developers. Factories are classes that allow you to create instances of new objects. So whenever they're the creation of an object is complex, you can delegate that to another class entirely. I might call this a manager instead, though. Manager really denotes the ability to interact with the POCO object against any persistence, and we would probably have, if this were a real application, some sort of persistence. So I'm going to go with news manager instead, now that I think about it a little bit more. Naming things is hard. I think I've said that before in this series. And you want to connote the right idea of the role that a given class or property or variable is playing inside of your system. Okay, so what the plan here is that I'm going to pass in a empty or even a populated observable collection of type news item, and then I'm going to use this method to remove what's already in it and populate it with all the items that fit the given category that you're passing in as well. Alright, so let's go ahead and get observable collection. I'm going to hit Control period on my keyboard, pops up IntelliSense. I'm going to grab that using statement there at the top, and we should be good now. Great. And so I think what I'm also going to do is actually delegate the actual creation of this master list of items to another method. So I'm going to go private static list of news item called get news items, and this is just a helper method, and it's going to do the hard work here. Oops. Okay, and ultimately we'll return this items. I'm fighting IntelliSense because I spelled items incorrectly. There we go. All right, and now if you'll excuse me, well, I'll go ahead and type in the first one. I'm going to paste in everything that I've done here, and I'll walk through it so you can look at it. So I'm using object initializer syntax inside of the add for the collection. So I'll do something like add ID equals 1, category equals, and I probably should use an enum for this, but I'm going to be lazy and just use a hard-coded string. And then for the headline, I'm going to set that equal to lorem ipsum. Subhead, I'll set that equal to some other fake Latin that I have no idea what it means. Set the date line equal to and then I'm going to set the image equal to assets financial 1.png. Alright, so you can see that I fumbled through and typed all of that out. Now here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to copy and paste all the rest of the items from work I've done previously from my notes. And I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you, I'll actually tell you what, before you actually take possession of, here, I'll actually give you this whole thing. I'm going to put this in our little instructions here. So I'm going to add this to the bottom like so, and you can just copy and paste it all out, and I'll make a note right above it like right here. So by the time that you receive this, you'll get all this extra stuff in there that'll help you create all the news items, okay? So that should make it easy for both of us. Alright, so now what I want to do is just call into that helper method to grab all the items, and then I'm going to get a filtered list of the items. So filter news items equals all items where, and so we'll filter by category like so. And once we have that, I'm going to convert it to a list like that. Okay. And now I'm going to take the news items that were passed in and call clear on them. So empty out everything that's in there. And then I'm going to go filter news items. Whoa, man, I am spelling items wrong today. There we go. Filter news items. And then I need to add each of the individual items in the list to observable collection. There's no easy way to convert. So let me do this. This is a nice little trick. This for each link extension method will go through each individual item in my news item, my in the filtered news items, and will add that filtered news item to my observable collection of news item, like so. Whoops. There we go. Okay, that should work. Okay, so just to explain that again. Here I'm grabbing all the news items that we create in our list of news item. Here I'm going to filter and only grab those out from the category that was passed in. I'm going to convert that to a list. And then I'm going to clear out all the items that are currently in the observable collection of news item. Now I want to go through and do a for each on every single item in the filtered news items. And for each item in that collection, I'm going to add it to this observable collection of news item. All right, so that should work. That should be just fine. Now what I want to do is in my main page, I'm going to need to go here, and I want to do a private observable collection of news item called news items. All right, let's make sure I spelled that right. Now I want to add using statements to get both my news item and the observable collection into this code file. And then in the main page, in the constructor for the page, what I'll do is populate it. Go news items equals new observable collection of news item. At least I'll create a new instance of it rather. And then when the page is loaded, what we'll do is page load, and we'll create an event handler for that. And here I'm going to make sure that the financial tab is selected. And then here, I'll go financial dot is, if that's true, if the financial is selected, we'll do something. Else, if food dot is selected, we'll do something else. Like that, okay? Let's go ahead and get these on other lines. Like so. Great. So here I'm going to call the news manager dot get news, and I'm going to say give me all the financial items, and I'm going to pass in the news items like that. Capital N, news items. And I'm going to also set the title box text equal to financial, like so. And then here we'll do the same thing, newsmanager.getNews. Whenever the food item is selected, the list view item called food is selected. So food, and then news items, and then the title text block.text equals food. Great. Alright, so that should set that all up. And then the last thing I guess I need to do is come back over to the main page.xaml and temporarily add stuff for this data template. So again, we'll be pulling this out eventually, but for short term I can make this work. So let me actually create a grid, and the grid's going to have 2 rows. And so the top row, whoops, will have an image, the financial 1 PNG, food 1 PNG, whatever the case might be. And then the that next row will actually have all of the text in there that we want to store. Now we'll come back and we'll worry about how to change the widths and the heights appropriately, but I'm going to go ahead and hard code the height equal to 275 for now, and we'll set the width equal to 200. We'll change that based on the width of the window, and we'll use the Visual State Manager to accomplish that. I'm going to go ahead and set the background to white as well, and I'll give it a margin all around 10. Alright, so let's start with the image, so that'll be in the top row. So I won't even set grid.row, and I'll set name my image. And then here we're going to set the source, and we'll do the xbind statement here. And that reminds me now we need to do some other things here. Alright, so the data template, x data type equals data news item. Of course, we have not defined that namespace called data, so let me do that. XML ns data equals fake news.model, like so. Alright, that should take care of that. And we're going to bind to the image. Then I'm going to add a relative panel, and in that relative panel I'm going to set that grid.row equals 1. And there's a bug with the relative panel. I think sometimes it manifests itself, and the bug is whenever it's used in the context of a data template, sometimes it whacks out inside of the XAML editor. So if you get that problem with blue squiggly line saying that has to be set to an instance of UI element, you're not the first one to encounter that. Maybe they'll fix that. I don't get it every time. It's an odd little bug, but I've seen other people online say that they've had the same issue. So let me actually say that I want this to be subhead, and I'll worry about the formatting of this later, make it look better. But I think that's all I'm really going to need right now. Alright, now I still get this little blue squiggly line here. I think it's because you got to build your project. I had not built the project since I created the news item class. Seems to work, and the blue squiggly goes away. Let's see what we have so far. Huh. It's not what I was expecting. Not what I was hoping for. All right, I'm missing something obvious. I feel like, oh, of course I'm missing something obvious. Can you see what I'm missing? I'll give you a hint. It's in here. Yeah. What I'm missing is the item source property. All right. Easy enough. And I gotta give it that observable collection of news item that I called news items that I created here in the main page.xaml.cs right there. That's how it's going to all bind itself together. So now let's see if it works. All right, it's not pretty. Definitely have some work to do with formatting, but I can see there's a lot of text on top of each other. That's okay for now. Let's see if that works. Yeah, so I'm filtering correctly. That's all working nicely. All right, and I'll worry about the formatting of these guys later on. But for the most part, I've done the creating of the data model and the data binding part of it, and we'll continue on the next lesson as we move on from there. Okay, thank you.